His first flight, his own Amazon show, and no Jeremy Clarkson. That is where Kaleb Cooper is now, not in a muddy field behind Clarkson, not correcting somebody else's mistakes, not playing the loud farmer in somebody else's story. He is flying to Australia for a 4-part Prime Video series, under his own name, and that should make every person who thought they understood Kaleb Cooper stop for a second. Because this was never what it looked like. It was never a celebrity finding a funny farmer. It was a working farmer building independence in plain sight. And the television industry did not see it coming. The version most people know is easy. Jeremy Clarkson bought a farm. He knew nothing. Kaleb Cooper knew everything. They argued. The show became a hit. Kaleb became famous. End of story. Except that is not the story. That is the trailer. The real story starts before the cameras arrived, before Prime Video, before the cues, before millions of people knew exactly what Kaleb Cooper thought about sheep, tractors, weather, and anybody who parked badly. Kaleb Cooper already had the one thing television cannot create. He had a real job, a farming contractor. That might not sound glamorous. It is not meant to. Contracting is not glamorous. It is machinery breaking at the wrong moment. It is rain arriving at the worst moment. It is fields that do not care about your schedule. It is doing work that has to be right because the consequences are expensive when it is wrong. And that is why Kaleb worked on screen. He was not pretending to understand farming. He was trying to get on with it. The cameras were the interruption. That is the difference. Jeremy Clarkson was the audience's question. Kaleb Cooper was the answer nobody wanted to hear. Why can't we do it this way? Because that is not how it works. Why is it taking so long? Because farming takes as long as it takes. Why does it cost that much? Because everything costs that much. That was the chemistry. But chemistry is not enough to build a career. A good television moment gets remembered. A real skill gets reused. And Kaleb Cooper had something far more valuable than a catchphrase. He had credibility. You can hire a comedian. You can train a presenter. You can write a joke. But you cannot fake the look on somebody's face when they have spent years fixing problems created by people who do not understand the job. That look was real. The impatience was real. The knowledge was real. And audiences trusted it. That trust became attention. Then attention became opportunity. And here is where the story gets interesting. Because television has a very old model. A platform finds somebody entertaining. The platform gives them exposure. The audience connects the person to the program. And the platform keeps control of the relationship. The show makes the person. The show owns the person. The show decides what happens next. That is how it is supposed to work. But Kaleb Cooper did not arrive as empty space waiting for television to fill him. He arrived with an identity. He was already a contractor, already a farmer, already somebody with work to do after the cameras went home. So instead of becoming trapped inside the format, he built around it. That is the move, not fame, infrastructure. Kaleb Cooper Productions Limited was incorporated in 2021. That sounds like a boring detail. It is not. It is the moment a recognizable person starts becoming an organized business. Because attention is temporary. A company is structure. Attention gets you noticed. Structure lets you keep what happens next. The media work, the appearances, the opportunities, the future projects, the things that exist even when one program stops filming. It is not a television career. It is a platform built around real expertise. And that is why Australia matters so much. Because Australia is not a reward trip. It is not a holiday episode. It is not Kaleb Cooper sitting on a beach and complaining about the sun. Prime Video has commissioned a 4-part series called Kaleb Down Under. It follows Kaleb as he takes his first flight ever and goes to Australia. But the reason he is going is the part people are missing. He is exploring whether his farming contracting business could work internationally. Stop there. Because that is not a normal spin-off. That is a business test. A travel show asks, what funny things will happen when this person goes abroad? This asks something much bigger. Can the business travel? Can the knowledge travel? Can the skills that work in Oxfordshire work on the other side of the world? Or will the whole model collapse the moment it meets Australian scale? That is the tension. And it is genuine. Australia is not simply Britain with more sunshine. The farms are enormous. The distances are enormous. The operating conditions can be brutal. The equipment is different. The decisions are different. The margins are different. Everything is bigger, which means the mistakes can be bigger too. Kaleb Cooper is going into an environment where being confident is not enough. He has to learn. And that is why the series could be much better than people expect. Because the real story is not whether Kaleb can make people laugh in Australia. Of course he can. The real story is whether he can take a British contracting mindset into one of the largest agricultural environments on Earth and find something useful. A new system, a new contact, a new idea, a new opportunity, or a very expensive reason to stay exactly where he is. Either outcome works. That is the genius of it. If the expansion idea works, he has found a new commercial possibility. If it fails, he still gains knowledge, relationships, experience, and a global television series documenting the lesson. The failure is the product, and that is the part most people never understand. Prime Video sees a 4-part program. Kaleb Cooper sees a real-world experiment. The audience sees entertainment. He may come home with information that changes his business for years. The visible asset is the show. The hidden asset is everything he learns while making it. That is not a flight. It is reconnaissance. And somebody else is funding it. Now here is the part that makes this bigger than television. Kaleb Cooper has also put his name behind an agriculture bursary at the Royal Agricultural University. The support is designed for students who want to enter agriculture, especially students without a farming background or those facing financial barriers. That is important, because farming is difficult to enter. Land is expensive, machinery is expensive, experience is often locked behind access, and access is usually controlled by people who already have it. Kaleb Cooper did not come from the traditional farming route. He built his own position. Then he created a small route for somebody else to begin theirs. That is not celebrity behavior. That is legacy behavior. Think about the contrast. On one side, there is the public Kaleb, the shouting, the arguments, the impatience, the man who looks as if he would rather repair a machine than attend an awards dinner. On the other side, there is a person thinking about students who might never get their first chance in farming. Both are real. But only one tells you where this story could go next. Because fame is not the destination. Fame is raw material. The important question is what somebody builds with it. Some people use attention to sell a moment. Others use it to build assets. A business. An audience. A platform. A future beyond the program that introduced them. Kaleb Cooper appears to be doing the second. And that is why his first flight matters. Not because flying to Australia is unusual. Because of what the flight represents. It represents a shift. From local contractor to national personality. From national personality to solo presenter. From solo presenter to someone testing whether the original business can become international. That is a very different trajectory from the one people imagined 4 years ago. This was never just Clarkson's farm creating a breakout character. It was a breakout character learning how to outgrow the role. And that does not mean leaving farming behind. That is the clever part. Kaleb Cooper is not trying to become a celebrity who occasionally talks about tractors. He is taking farming into every new opportunity, into television, into live audiences, into publishing, into education, and now into Australia. The farm is still the foundation, but the foundation is becoming much bigger than one field. Of course, there is risk. A solo series has to work. The audience may prefer Kaleb beside Clarkson. Australia may prove that British contracting methods do not transfer. The experiment may create more questions than answers, but that is not failure. Not if the information is useful. Not if the audience follows him. Not if the business becomes stronger because he discovered what does not work. That is the difference between somebody chasing attention and somebody building leverage. One needs every new opportunity to succeed. The other can learn from every result. Stand back. Look at the full picture. A working contractor becomes a breakout television character. A breakout character becomes a recognizable name. A recognizable name becomes an organized business. Then comes the first flight, the solo series, the international test, and a bursary helping the next generation enter the world that gave him his start. That is not a spin-off. It is a second empire being built in public. Jeremy Clarkson may have opened the gate, but Kaleb Cooper is deciding where the road goes. And Australia may be the moment everyone realizes he was never just the supporting character. He was building something of his own all along. If you were Kaleb Cooper, would you take the Australian opportunity? Would you test your business thousands of miles from home? Or would you stay in Britain and protect what you have already built? Tell us in the comments. And if Kaleb, Down Under, proves he can carry a major series alone, what do you think he builds next? Because this story is only just getting interesting.